Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Will Kern from Endless Events back here with another Whiteboard Wednesday. And today we're talking about how do you keep your attendees engaged at hybrid events. You know, we've talked a lot about virtual events in the past, in-person events, how do we get them all engaged? But when it comes with a hybrid event, you are literally dealing with two different audiences. If you don't know what a hybrid event, it is the combination of an in-person audience and a virtual audience. And my definition of a perfect hybrid event is when you have the blurring of lines, the blending of those two audiences together where they have the ability to interact with each other. And we'll talk about the engagement side in just a sec. But the idea behind it is that they are completely blurred together, where someone has in the virtual world says, I had an incredible experience at that event. And then the person in person says, I had an incredible experience. And they're at the same level when it comes to it as well. So let's talk about how can you get your attendees engaged then, shall we? So when it comes to blurring of the lines, you want to think about your audience engagement systems. And it's obvious, you need an audience engagement system. This is things like polling, chat, Q&A, emoji response, whatever it may be when it comes to allowing audience to engage, audience response, whatever that may be. But the important thing when it comes to this is to blur the lines between the two. And what does that mean? Well, first thing is make sure the systems that they're using, for example, if you're doing polling, make sure the poll is done by the people in person and also the people virtually at the same time, right? Blur the audiences together. If you have a chat, allow the attendees in person who are sitting in maybe a ballroom watching the presenter speak, allow them to chat with the virtual audience. Like, it's that simple, guys. That's like a very first easy step. Far too many times do we separate them, do we put the virtual audience in a chat room, and we don't ever let the in-person people talk to them. Allow them to blur together, and you'll be on your way. Other thing as well is allow the audiences to meet each other. As we say, audience meets audience. So you want the in-person audience to be able to meet the virtual audience. Why is this important? Well, again, you know, someone might decide that I want to go in person and see the presenter speak. There's no reason why the virtual audience shouldn't have the opportunity to set up meetings, to network, to chat, to have the opportunity to engage with those people as well. I envision this is something like maybe, for example, you have these little pods with screens in it. And let's say, for example, you have a meeting scheduled to meet someone virtually. You walk into one of those pods and boom, that person virtually pops up on the screen. You get a chance to message them. You walk out of the pod, you're back at the in-person event. Right? So again, blurring the lines between virtual and in-person. So let's move on then to talking about those two nuances. The important thing to do as well if you're designing a hybrid event is to acknowledge the audience. And what does that mean? Acknowledge the audience. Well, in person, you would never go up and speak and be like, so let me just talk, right? You'd be like, how's it going, New York? You know, how's everybody doing? Like, make some noise, right? You interact with the audience as well. Well, you have to do that also simultaneously with the virtual audience. So, for example, you're my virtual audience right now. I'm looking directly at the camera. You're giving eye contact to it. So I'm showing you that attention. So what that means, if you have presenters on stage, they need to be trained to be able to look at the right cameras at the right time, so then that way they can interact with it. It means like specifically calling them out. But let's talk about calling them out and making the eye contact. How can you do that a little bit easier with technology? It's called a tally light. A tally light is like when you're in the newsroom, and how do the newscasters always know what camera to look at? You know, they're constantly shifting. They're over here, and tonight we move over here, and oh, in this week's story, right? They do that because they put a light on the camera, and it's controlled by the control room that whenever they're picking that camera to be the one that goes live, it puts a light on it. Super duper simple productions that allows people to make eye contact with it as well. So let's talk about the shout outs and the engagement as well. Give your MCs, your talent, all those things like that, which we'll talk about in just a second. You have to give them the opportunity to give shout outs to the virtual audience as well, just like you do in person. Hey, how's it going, dude, in the front row? That's an awesome hat, right? You need to do that for the virtual audience as well. And what does that mean exactly? Well, it could be something as simple as, yeah, literally looking at the camera and giving a shout out. Hey, thank you so much, virtual audience, for being here. But maybe instead, level it up, call them out by name. Hey, I see the comments down below that are flooding on in. Joe in Arkansas, how you doing, man? Right? Think about like the best live TV broadcast that you've ever seen. How do they do it? Copy that. Don't reinvent the wheel. Other things you can consider, doing on-screen comments. That's why when you watch like TV and sports broadcasts, they bring tweets up that people are saying on the screen, right? Allow those on-screen comments to pop up. There's a lot of awesome systems that you can allow people to comment on live stream and literally bring their comments up as they're coming in. Think about that 5 seconds of fame that everyone's trying to get. This allows them to get that. And again, keeps them engaged and on their seats, right? Let's say someone adds an awesome comment that expands upon what the speaker is saying. That's what you want to put on there as well. Again, think about TV broadcast. That's where you want to be. Then let's talk about good talent, right? Why do you stop watching a TV show? It's not because like they don't have the best, script writing or whatever. Sometimes they are, right? But a lot of times it's because the talent's not that good. The acting's not that good. All those things like that. In the same way that if someone was reading the news like this, you would tune out immediately. Get good talent and have good content. Well, this is obvious stuff. We talked a little bit about it. Get high energy presenters, that, especially in the virtual, when you're translating from in-person to virtual, people always talk about, at least me, is that I'm super high energy on stage. And it's the thing that people love the most. And that translates really well virtually because everyone else is reading really quietly, barely making eye contact with the cameras. Instead, when you bring in high energy, it allows the audience to feel engaged. They feel on the seat, the edge of their seat, that they're ready and they're on a roller coaster ready to go. So bring them high energy. Also, high production value as well. Don't just sit and put a presenter on screen and put the slides next to them. Instead, cut back and forth with the slides at minimum. But maybe instead, figure out a way to do the John Oliver style where you put, the slides up right behind their head. So then that way it's in there. Incorporate 3D graphics. Whatever you have to do. Have little video clips playing in between. When a presenter gets done, play a sound clip in a special effect. Whatever it is. I don't know. Add production value all day long. And then we're going to last thing that you want to do is create unique experiences. Look, I would be absolutely dumb to say that, yes, you can recreate the in-person experience virtually. That's not 100% possible. Instead, what you have to do is create a new experience for the virtual people. What does this mean exactly? Well, it means that sometimes you have to put a little bit more into the virtual event. That's why people were saying, hey, when we do a hybrid event, we're sending extra swag rather than the people in person, right? The in-person people get the chance to go talk to the speakers in person. Well, how can maybe you create a unique experience where maybe the virtual audience gets to sit down with a speaker in a mini fireside chat, but the in-person people don't get to do it because, I don't know, whatever it is, but create unique experiences for each one as well. But don't forget that you can't, on the online side of things, not the in-person side of things, that they need to have these unique experiences that are totally different. And then last but not least, if you're looking to create awesome engagement for your hybrid events, you need to be looking at your analytics. And I'm not talking about looking at your analytics after the event. I'm not talking about looking at them at the end of the day. You need real-time analytics. For example, if you see that the Q&A in your engagement system is blowing up, redesign your content on the fly to focus on Q&A. If people really want to do this XYZ, see what people are reacting to, getting that instant pulse, and get that analytics and change your event and design it on the fly. And use data-driven design to be able to literally design your event. And that's it. That's how you can create awesome engagement for your hybrid events. So I would love to know in the comments down below, what sort of ideas do you have for creating awesome engagement within hybrid events? Let us know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you loved this content, consider giving this a thumbs up. We would really appreciate it. It lets the algorithm gods know that we're doing a good job as well. But if you had a bad time and this wasn't really helpful, feel free to get a thumbs down. But let us in the comments down below, what can we do better? We gotta know. And if you really love this content and you want more, you gotta subscribe because we do this every single Wednesday right here on Whiteboard Wednesday. This has been Will Kern from Endless Events. I'll engage with you guys later.